Hi, I'm Stephen with AlbertaUrbanGarden.ca. On today's episode, I'm going to show you how to build this very inexpensive raised bed and how to fill it your first year for very cheap as well. So far in the urban gardening series, we've planned what we want to grow, we've planted some seedlings in the grow room, and we've even directly sown some of our more cold hardy crops directly in the raised beds. With a small investment, raised beds can continue to pay dividends for years to come. Location is important when selecting an area to build your raised bed. Generally, I am looking for a location on the north or the east side of the property. In the southern hemisphere, this is the south or the west. Avoid areas where trees are growing or ponding water is present when it rains. I will put a link at the end of this video and in the description below to a clip where I go into much more detail on how to select a location for a raised bed. There are many raised bed designs out there. Some of them are very complex, while others are a lot more simple. As I mentioned earlier in this series, I not only want to help this family grow more food at home, but I want to see if I can help them save money. So I've selected a raised bed design that I've used in the past that is cheap and simple to build. For this project, I'm building a 4 foot by 4 foot or 1.2 meter square raised bed that has a depth of 12 inches or 30 centimeters. The reason I have selected 4 foot or 1.2 meters is if you have clear access all the way around the bed, you should be able to reach everywhere in the garden without having to step on the soil within the raised bed. 12 inches or 30 centimeters in depth will allow you to put 8 inches or 20 centimeters of soil, which is enough for most crops and leaves space for future application of compost and mulch. For this project, you will need 4 2-inch by 6-inch by 8-foot boards, cardboard, garden soil, screwdriver, drill, circular saw, screws, measuring tape, level, and a pencil. After you have selected the area you want to build on, make sure it is relatively flat. A little slope will help with drainage, however a large one may require a little digging to even out the frame. There is no need to remove the grass underneath as we will mulch it after. As I have 8 foot or 2.4 meter lengths of wood, I'll cut them in half first. Make sure to measure the length of the board as they rarely come exactly in the length advertised. Often, they are 1/4 to a 1/2 inch longer than advertised. Mark the center. I find the easiest way to mark a straight line is a square that has a lip on the side. Cut your side panel boards to the desired length. Pre-drill 2 or 3 screw holes with a bit that is slightly smaller than the width of the screw. Pre-drilling will ensure a tight fit and will help prevent the lumber from cracking. Line up the top and the side of the board and install 1 screw per corner. Leaving only 1 screw will let the frame shift into its new place. If you need to make adjustments, now is the time. Once you are satisfied, drive home the remaining screws on each board. Repeat the process for the second level, but add a tacking screw to attach the first level to the second. Pre-drilling this one is very important. For further strength, you can add scrap lumber to the corners, on either the inside like this 4x4 post, or on the outside. For this project, I've selected to use untreated pine, as it's the cheapest lumber in my area. And because of my environment, it's very dry, we should get between 6 to 7 years of life out of these raised beds. If you're in an area that's a little more humid, or simply wish to extend the life of your garden bed, using pressure-treated wood is perfectly fine. On screen now is a link to a video where I evaluated if the use of pressure-treated wood in a vegetable garden is safe. Before you toss any soil on the bed, it's time to smother out the grass and any other plants below. For this, I suggest using some cardboard or newspaper. Just avoid things that are glossy or have tape on them. Lay down a thick layer of cardboard, making sure to cover all of the native ground. Over the season, the plants below will die and decompose. During this time, worms will be drawn into the area and degrade the cardboard. Over the long term, this will allow deep-rooting plants to take advantage of the topsoil below and bring worms into your new soil, helping to fertilize your plants, aerate your soil, and leave behind humic acid and plant growth hormones, all of which will be a benefit to your vegetables and fruits. Now that you have the frame done and the mulch in the bottom, it's time to fill your raised beds. If you have a bed that has more than 8 inches or 20 centimeters of depth, you can fill the bottom with undecomposed organic material. Things like autumn leaves, kitchen scraps like eggshells and coffee grounds are perfect for this. Not only will it help fill the bed, but it will further attract worms and provide you long-term fertility in the soil. If you're going to use undecomposed material in your garden, it's really important that it's more than 8 inches or 20 centimeters below the surface. As if it's any shallower, it may tie up the nutrients that your plants need during the growing season during the decomposition process. Most new gardeners might not have access to homemade compost, or if you do, you might not have enough to fill a raised bed. The soil mix that I'm going to use today not only is effective to get your garden bed started, but it's cheap as well. I will be using 1 part soilless potting mix and 1 part bulk compost. Depending on which is cheaper, you can shift to 3 parts of the cheaper mix and 1 part of the more costly. This mix will hold moisture, but is free draining while providing the nutrients for your plants. Soilless potting mix is often made with things like coconut coir, which is the processed husks of coconut, or peat, which in my area is a waste product often heading to landfill. The compost source can be really from any source. Municipal yards usually have a compost made from autumn leaves and grass clippings. Here in Canada, that compost is required to pass safety checks, making it perfectly safe to use in your garden. If you are uncomfortable, you can find composts at big wholesale outlets made from vegetable scraps or other wastes from other industries, such as forestry or fisheries. A general rule of thumb I like to follow when selecting a compost if I can't make it myself is to use one with the highest diversity of feed materials. This is much more likely to allow you to initially get enough nutrients for your plants to use right away. I try to fill the beds 2/3 the way full the first year. In this case, it will require 6 cubic feet of material, or 0.17 cubic meters. Give the soil a good slow watering and let it settle for a few days before planting. In order to make sure I'm returning nutrients to the soil as my plants take them out, I like to mulch the surface with free and local resources. By doing this, I have successfully avoided purchasing any store-bought fertilizers, further saving me money, and often helping to divert these materials from landfill. This project cost $18.89 Canadian for the lumber and $66.14 for the soil and compost. The screws I had reclaimed from another project, making the total project cost $85.03. One of the mistakes that I made when I first started gardening is I did not fill my raised beds with compost. I filled it with topsoil that's used for putting in your lawn. This topsoil is often very poor quality and is filled with weeds. I suggest avoiding it. If you do have any reclaimed lumber like I did for this bed and have the time to make compost or can find a free source, you can certainly do this project for free. If you would like to see any of the videos where I have gone into more detail on any of these topics, I have put links in the description below, including how to build a raised bed on the slope.